Namaskar, Parishad to everybody. We are very lucky that we have His Holiness the Dalai Lama amidst us. It's a great day, both for the two organizations, ARSP and the National and the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, that His Holiness has agreed to our request to be with us and bless us with his words of wisdom. As you know, today the subject of his talk is role of culture and ethics in promoting global peace and harmony. His Holiness is a person who doesn't need introduction wherever he goes in any part of the world. I am one of those very lucky individuals as a journalist, as a photographer, and a person who follows Tibet. I have seen him very closely for last more than 45 years. So instead of giving introduction to him, I'll just give you one small anecdote of 1980, when I had the privilege of being with His Holiness in Zanskar Valley. That will explain the personality, the thinking he represents. In the Zanskar Valley, which is very far away from the nearest town, Kargil, exactly 123 kilometers. That was the first time in the life of those people they saw a truck, they saw an electric bulb, they saw water flowing from water tap. These were the things which the administration had specially installed because His Holiness was giving Avalokiteshwar Chakra. His Holiness himself is, if we can say, a human manifestation of Lord Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion. In front of an audience which was around 40,000 people, many of them had traveled more than 10 days on foot from various mountain regions to have his darshan because he was visiting first time there in life. One day, the preachings, the teachings were going on. His Holiness was on a high pedestal with a good arrangement of microphones, loudspeakers. Suddenly, he stopped speaking and everybody was waiting for him, and what happened was a small ant had crawled into his lap, and His Holiness noticed it and offered his hand, a finger, to the ant. The ant crawled on his finger. His Holiness took that finger on the other side, blew it, saw it falling safely on the land, and he gave a huge laughter. 40,000 people sitting, holding their breaths. They didn't know what was happening, nothing happening. And then the first thing they heard was huge laughter. And then he realized there are 40,000 people waiting to listen from him. And only thing he had to, he said, oh, but you know, this was more important than preaching you compassion. This is His Holiness Dalai Lama. We know so many other aspects of his personality. World has honored him in so many ways. Even awards like prizes like Nobel Prize have actually honored themselves by when His Holiness was honored with those awards. To start with today's function, I will invite Ambassador Virendra Gupta, who is heading ARSP, the Antar-Rashtriya Sahayog Parishad. We know this organization in many ways, but one of the most beautiful, important achievements of this organization is what you see today, an organized form of the Indian diaspora. We see Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. We have been observing it for many years now. the credit goes to ARSP. The credit goes to Shri Baleshwar Agrawal, who was the founder of this organization, who started this movement, who organized Indians living abroad since ages, since generations, into one family. Ambassador Virendra Gupta, very quick. May I have your permission, sir, to introduce you very quickly?
No, not important.
No, it's okay. So, Ambassador Virendra Gupta.
Thank you, Vijayji, our moderator for this morning, His Holiness 14th Dalai Lama, Dr. Shakti Sinha, Director of NMML, Shri Shyam Parandeji, Secretary General of ARSP, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, senior members of the ARSP, and I'd particularly like to welcome young people amongst us. I see not only Tibetan students, but also students from JNU and Delhi University, because the future belongs to all of you, and I think you must pay attention to the message of His Holiness. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all. Antar-Rashtriya Sahayog Parishad has been working for the last 50 years in the pursuit of global peace and understanding. We seek to promote friendship and harmony in the spirit of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, which epitomizes the underlying idea of India. Our traditional focus has been on members of Indian diaspora. There are about 31 million people of Indian origin spread throughout the world. They left Indian shores in different phases, some several centuries back. Some went out looking for greener pastures, while some were shipped out of the country, very much against their wishes, by colonial agents to serve the interests of plantations overseas. We have sought to respond to a growing aspiration on their part to more strongly connect with their motherland in cultural and emotional terms by facilitating more intensive and robust people-to-people exchanges. We have also sought to connect with around 15 to 20 million Roma people spread mainly in Central Europe. This has remained a much neglected community whose ancestors left India nearly 1,000 years ago. This year, we are marking the commemoration of the millennium of that exodus by holding a big international conference in November. In the last few years, we've also begun to provide greater attention to people in the neighboring region, given the obvious importance of maintaining cordial and friendly relations with them. Ladies and gentlemen, we are greatly honored in hosting His Holiness Dalai Lama for a special lecture on role of culture and ethics in promoting global peace and harmony. We live in troubled times, characterized more by strife, dominance, and exploitation, rather than peace and harmony and understanding. And it is not just the individuals who show these traits, but also nations which are trying to dominate, which are trying to bully other nations, which are trying to threaten other nations, which are trying to indulge in aggressive behavior. In such times, His Holiness is one of the most calming voice. He is one of the most inspirational figures of our times. In an opinion poll in New York in 2013, he was voted as the most popular figure in the world. Someone that people look up to. We are fortunate that we have this opportunity to hear him in person, to soak in the beneficence of his noble thoughts. His Holiness has spread the message of love, compassion, harmony, tolerance, reconciliation, forgiveness, and non-violence. This is indeed the eternal message given by great men and our religious figures, which in a sense impels us to become, and what His Holiness emphasizes time and again, that you should become good human being. He says, and I quote, "Because we all share this planet Earth, we have to learn to live in harmony and peace with each other and with nature. It is not just a dream, but necessity." What strikes me most about His Holiness is that he is not a dreamer, but a realist and a very practical man, very much like the great Mahatma Gandhi himself. He shows our world a way out when he exhorts us to solve our differences through peaceful means by dialogue, education and knowledge. He accepts that peace does not mean absence of conflict and that the differences will always be there. March 2019 would mark 60 years of His Holiness Dalai Lama's stay in India. On behalf of ARSP, we want to wish him a long life and continued service of humanity and Tibetan people. We are truly blessed that he has chosen the land of India to spread his message of peace and harmony. Thank you very much.
So after this formal welcome address, may I request Ambassador Virendra Gupta ji and Shri Shakti Sinha ji to honor, to welcome His Holiness with flowers. So now it's time for the host of this event, the co-host of this event, Shri Shakti Sinha ji, who is the director of Nehru Memorial Museum and Library. Shri Shakti Sinha ji.
Thank you. Just to add a few words, as Virendra Gupta rightly said, India is particularly blessed to have in our midst the presence of the reincarnation of the Bodhisattva of compassion, Avlatakeshvara. We lost the great works done in India, say for the Nalanda, 17 Nalanda masters, which we lost when monastic universities from Takshila to Vikramshila, Nalanda, Odantapuri, many others were destroyed, burnt. Fortunately for us, the Tibetans, His Holiness always says they're very good chelas. They kept our records very, very well. And today we can access all of them thanks to Tibet. So I think we're eternally grateful to that. We're also grateful for the fact that His Holiness has promoted the idea of ethics, behavior, culture, the mind and life conferences on how empathy and compassion is something that can be developed in human beings through the process of meditation and others, that it is not preordained, that we are in a position to change our own minds, the neural wirings of our minds. We are eternally grateful to that. We have all come here to gather here to listen to His Holiness. So let me not take more of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shakti Sinha ji. When we were finalizing this program, we took care that we should not be standing between you and His Holiness, and we should be standing for the shortest possible time. Now, before I request His Holiness to come to bless us with his words of wisdom, one very short point which needs to be reminded to our Indian friends. In 1959, when His Holiness arrived in India, after that, India has been his house, his home. He calls it second home. He calls himself son of India. He calls himself as Chela of India. But over the time, things have changed. The Chela has grown up, and now we feel privileged that we have him as our Guru. One thing which need to be underlined as His Holiness is completing his 60 years in India. In these 60 years of exile, we can say that in the whole world, the story of Tibetan refugees is one of the most unique stories. It's the story of only 100,000 people. Actually, it started with 80,000, then later on the number increased. Total number of refugees is 150,000. About 50,000 is living outside South Asia. In India, the number of Tibetan refugees is a little, somewhat around 1 lakh. But the success story, the one major point is that it was a handful of 100,000 people. In Delhi, you go to any locality, the number of people is more than that. And this small number has used the Indian hospitality, the support from Indian government, love from Indian people, and made best use of it. And today when you see, it is because of the leadership of His Holiness, because of his wisdom, because of his far-sightedness, because of his people's faith in him and his leadership and their discipline, that India has evolved into the largest reservoir of Tibetan culture over these 60 years. This is one of the biggest achievements of India. It's not only achievement of His Holiness or the refugees with him. This is a great achievement of India. And we thank you, Your Holiness, for giving us such a huge gift over past 60 years. We wish you very long life, and we wish that under your leadership, under your with your kind presence here, India gains more, and Tibetans they find India as their second home till the Tibetan issue is solved to your satisfaction and Tibet regains its place of honor on the world map. May I request His Holiness on behalf of all of us to kindly give your words of wisdom. Thank you, Your Holiness.
Okay. Usually I prefer speak from there. Now I have some excuse. Now too old. So, some people say the manifestation of our Lokuteshvara. Now it is impossible, our Lokuteshvara's manifestation, the painful because of the leg. Now, brothers and sisters, I am extremely happy having this opportunity to, I think, exchange. I prefer, say, question and answer, and also receiving some suggestions or some advice. Meantime, I also, express some of my sort of the views, visions, out of my own experience. So thank you. You invited me. Thank you. Thank you. Now here, role of culture, ethics in promoting global peace and harmony. Culture, I feel, is not through some kind of revolution or something. Culture, time passes, certain way of life. Certain way of life develop the condition of the place, including climate. So then, this country, India, I feel among the different civilization, like civilization from Arab area and civilization in China and this country, it seems quite clear. Civilization of India, I think, produce most great thinkers, philosopher, and spiritual, practitioner. As I'm student of Nalanda tradition, these masters of Nalanda, like Nagarjuna and Chandakiddi, Buddhapalita, Vavavega, really great thinker, philosopher. And Dignac, Dharmakirti, great logician. So then, 8th century, Antar-Rashtriya, at that time, 8th century, I think almost the top scholar and logician of Nalanda. He invited by Tibetan emperor and came to, in spite his old age, he accepted that invitation. Then, later, his own topmost, I think, the student, Kamalashila. So they introduce Buddha Dharma according to Nalanda tradition. So on top of Pali tradition, Vinaya, these things, is common. Those Buddhist country which follow Pali tradition. On top of that, the Sanskrit tradition. And the Sanskrit tradition, much emphasis, reason. So therefore, the tradition which we kept and follow according Antar-Rashtriya's advice over 1,000 years. Now today, I found that tradition really provide us philosophy. Now, one occasion, the Raja Ramana, nuclear physicist, once he told me, quantum physics in the West, something new. In this country, over 2,000 years, that concept already developed. And he mentioned to me some Nagarjuna's writing, the concept of quantum physics already there. It is true. Then, according Buddha's own sort of advice, O my follower, you see, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So some master of Nalanda, like Nagarjuna and Chandakirti, they rejected some Buddha's own word, some sutra. Their reason, if you accept literally this sutra, it goes against the reason. So we should not accept that. Since Buddha, you see, give us some kind of liberty to examine Buddha's own word, and some word goes against the reason, then we have the liberty to reject. That's a Nalanda tradition. So these, if you reject one Buddha's quotation and use another quotation, it's useless. So in order to reject one Buddha's teaching entirely based on reason, therefore, logical approach is very essential according to Nalanda tradition. So now these teaching, I really find quite scientific. Even I mention now Buddha, one aspect, Buddha, of course, founder of Buddha Dharma. One aspect of that person is great thinker. Already sort of mentioned quantum physics. Great thinker, great philosopher. And then he emphasizes infinite altruism. Although all religious tradition teach us practice of compassion. But then I think the Buddha Dharma is the entire sentient being should consider your mother. So usually we describe mother sentient being. And then Buddha, since he emphasizes on reason, experiment, rather than faith, so Buddha, one aspect, I consider him as a ancient Indian scientist. So now, we really feel, or say the proud, we kept this Nalanda tradition. So then, 59, when we came to India as a refugee, emotionally, mentally, we feel we return to our original home of Tibetan spirituality. That's India. So then, at the early period as a refugee, so our main concern is how to preserve this knowledge. Then eventually, we notice, this knowledge, not only one ancient knowledge, but also very relevant to today's world. So then, firstly, I try to a close sort of discussion with scientists. Then eventually, now over 30 years, the result is mutual learning. Many scientists really find some useful information, particularly mind, these things. And then we also learned some useful information from science. So these days I describe myself half Buddhist monk, half scientist. So some Buddha's own teaching goes against scientific finding. Then I took liberty to reject the Buddha's sort of teaching. Okay. Like that. Like concept of Mount Meru. I no longer believe that. I publicly reject. Like that. Like that. So, the culture, the rule of culture and ethics, this country, I think even before Buddha come, the rich cultural heritage already there. Like practice of shamatha, practice of vipassana, already there. So I always is describing Buddha himself was product of Indian culture, Indian spirituality. So he spent 6 years, some hermit life. During those years, he practiced shamatha, vipassana. That's Indian tradition. Then he found one unique thing, that is anathema theory. Some time back, I met one sadhu in Bangalore. We have some discussion. Then I told him, you see, practice of Shila, practice of shamatha, practice of vipassana, we are same. So I call him, and also you see, the Hindu brothers, sisters, we are twin brothers, sisters. These are same practice. The difference is concept of Atma and Anathma. So I told him, that's our private business. I believe Anatma, he believes Atma, no problem. The other practice is the same. So, now so therefore, in this country, over 3,000 years, I think some kind of pluralism in different spirituality. So therefore, eventually, this country, beside homegrown different spiritual tradition, there's Sangha philosophy, Jain philosophy, and Buddhist philosophy, and some other. These are homegrown. And later, Sikhism. These are India's tradition. Then, beside homegrown different religious tradition, the Judeo-Christian tradition come here, and Islam come here. Live harmoniously. Wonderful. That's really, I think, greatness of India. The different spiritual tradition live together in the spirit of spiritual brotherhood, sisterhood, and harmony. So now this tradition which we kept, I think as far as Islam is concerned, I think 4 centuries ago, when 5th Dalai Lama there, some Muslim from Ladakh came, and 5th Dalai Lama provided them land for their construction of one mosque. So then every Tibetan government sort of as a ceremony, the representative of the Tibetan Muslim always come. Like that. So quite, I say, the equal respect, all these. And privately, it's some Tibetans say, oh, this is Muslim. But so basically, and especially Tibetan government attitude, equal, like that. So therefore, after we reach India, initially, as I mentioned earlier, our main effort is how to preserve this. Then gradually, I found from this tradition, we can help to other people. particularly now these days, every day we heard some killing human being by human being in the name of different religion. Then we feel, oh, 1,000-year-old India's tradition, religious harmony, is very important to this world. That concept also is related with concept of ahimsa. Ahimsa, action level. The motivation of ahimsa is karuna. That's India's tradition. So now this concept of ahimsa, and ahimsa not out of fear, but out of respect to their right, out of sense of concern of their well-being. That is karuna. So now this, and then also India's tradition, secular. Secular, according to Indian understanding, respect all religion and also respect non-believer. That is something quite unique. In Western world, the very word ahimsa, secular, some sort of meaning, disrespect religion. That also, you see, understandable, that kind of impression during French Revolution and Russian Revolution, some kind of tendency, so criticize or against religious group. Actually, these things, I think, we should make distinction, religion and religious institution. As far as religion is concerned, the real meaning of religion is practice of love, honest, truthful. There nobody against that. Everybody need love, honest, truthful, transparency. Then why these revolutionary people, some negative attitude towards religion, is religious institution. Religious institution, I think 1,000 years, religious institution, feudal system go side by side. And in early world, I think a lot of sort of violence in the name of religion. That's not just a religion, but power. And sometimes I feel they mobilized violence. That's war. That's war. That is the certain sort of way of practice of feudal system. The feudalism, once individual person have full power, regardless 1,000 people's life just go to destroy other sort of group. So theoretically, I feel war is part of feudal system. Now today, feudal system outdated. Now democracy. Democracy means respect individuals. And actually, I believe world belongs to 7 billion human beings. And each nation belongs to the people of the nation. Kings and queens, religious leaders, full sort of power. That's outdated. So therefore, if you ask individual soldier, do you happy to sacrifice your own life for benefit of the leader? I don't think. The individual soldier, I don't think willing to sacrifice their own life in order to serve one individual. I don't think. So therefore, now theoretically I think war is outdated. And then more realistic way, today's world. See, in ancient time, different nation, even different community, more or less self-sufficient. Now today, everything interdependent. India's economy depends on West or other neighbors. Even I think border area, those side, Indian side, their economy very much related with Pakistanis. The Pakistan people, the border area, their sort of economy also depend on India. That's is reality. So East depend West, West depend East. Similarly, North and South. And on top of that, the global warming. Although American president seems to be not much concerned about global warming, but reality, our own lifetime, now weather pattern changing. In Tibet, many snow mountains are reduced. And even Dharamsala, 1960 I reached Dharamsala. 1959 in India, and 1 year spent in Mussoorie. Then 60 summer I come Dharamsala. And that winter, oh, lot of snow. And the South Ashram area. Now year by year, nowadays, you see, some occasion, few drops of snow, but otherwise, you see, not much. So we notice the global warming reality. Then I think the water resources now facing some problem. In Africa, in this area, oh, really? Due to global warming, I think a lot of difficult life for many people. And on top of that, I think gap, rich and poor. Poor people, really. Huh? Poor people. Oh, it's working? Hmm? What happened? This one. So in this country, India also, there are real sort of problem, gap, rich and poor. And then worst thing is China, socialist country, but huge gap, rich and poor. So therefore, now these things, I think, lack of sense of concern of others' well-being. In order to develop genuine socialism, we have to pay more attention about our sense of oneness of humanity, at least oneness of the people in that country, and concern their well-being. You see, neglect others' well-being is out of ignorance. Selfish, taking care oneself is from the birth. Every sort of as a sentient being, taking care oneself. It is very necessary for survival. But we are social animal. If you think according to the reality, then take care more other people. That's the best way to fulfill your own interest. We are a social animal. Just self-centered attitude brings more fear, more anxiety, more irritation, and that brings anger and extreme competition, sense of competition. Then finally you become isolated person. That against the social animal's sort of nature. Take care about others' well-being, you will find more friends, trusted friend, not artificial friend, but trusted friend. And more compassionate feeling. Your physical health also better. Now that's now scientists say. See, too much self-centered attitude, that brings anger, and anger destroys our immune system. Taking care about other, that brings inner strength, self-confidence. That brings, you see, honest, truthful, and with honesty, truthful life, you see, you can carry your life transparency. That brings trust from other. Trust is the basis of friendship. We need friend, not artificial friend of money or friend of power. That's temporary. So long you are rich and powerful, more friend. When these fortune gradually disappear, then these friends no longer remain close with you. So these people are actually friend of money, friend of power, not friend of human being. So genuine sort of sense of concern of their well-being and trust or friendship based develop on these sort of basis, that's a real human friend. So therefore, now India's tradition, I think today's world, very, very relevant. So as a student of Nalanda, and as you mentioned, as a sort of chela of ancient Indian guru. So now, since guru not much pay attention, so chela have responsibility to remind guru, you should pay more attention for this knowledge. So therefore, one of my commitment is try to revival of these ancient Indian tradition, Indian knowledge. World need a concept of ahimsa, karuna, and secular. These very important. So in order to share with other people, firstly, within the country, these values must revive. Revive not through prayer. I think as I'm Buddhist, in my daily life, I always pray to Buddha, but I don't believe the actual change come through prayer. I don't believe. Everything, you see, depends on our action. Action with vision, not narrow-minded, short-sighted, but think more with wider perspective and long-term. So India, I think, really have this potential. Now, I think the modern Indian, you should not satisfy the existing modern education. Modern education itself oriented about material value. Now, modern education is very important. On top of that, ancient 1,000-year-old India's tradition about karuna, about ahimsa, about secular, these should include. Then, in order to develop, in order to educate the ahimsa, karuna, you should need education about mind, about emotion. In order to tackle our emotion, you see, with fuller knowledge about the whole system of emotion. So these days I start describing in our education field, the hygiene of physical, there we consider important in order to bring healthy body. But equally it is important, hygiene of emotion. You see, healthy body, very now like this, quite strong body, but that alone not necessarily bring healthy emotion. So emotion, healthy emotion. Now scientists say the peaceful emotion, peaceful mind is very important for our health. So and then I think one important thing is, now some scientists say basic human nature is more compassionate. That's a really hopeful sign. If basic human nature is anger, then no hope. But basic human nature is more compassionate. That's quite clear. When we look children, I think they play together, they don't care about different faith or different family or different race. When we grown up, through education, with too much emphasis, differences. So now today's many world problem is actually our own creation, on the basis of with too much emphasis on secondary level of differences. Now only remedy to reduce that is we must go deeper level, oneness of 7 billion human beings. And the reality, today's world, is each individual's nation, their future depends on the rest of the world. So when American president, you see, express America first, I feel that's not right. America also part of the world. And moreover, America is the leading nation of free world. So America should take sort of sense of responsibility about global level, like that. So therefore, I really feel now ancient Indian tradition about emotion. And in order to tackle emotion, the 1,000-year-old Indian tradition of practice of shamatha, practice of vipassana, as I mentioned earlier. So now my my commitment is try to revival of these ancient Indian knowledge. And only India have the ability to combine modern knowledge and ancient Indian knowledge. Modern knowledge, mainly material things. Ancient Indian knowledge dealing with mind. So you can combine these two. And then, as you mentioned, among the audience, many Indians who live in foreign countries. So whenever I met some Indian community in New York or in England, I usually is telling them, you should preserve India's tradition at some Diwali or some other sort of festival. You should invite some sort of your friend and then talk India's 1,000-year-old tradition of harmony, religious harmony, these things. And like now I think the mayor of London is Muslim, Indian origin, I think. So, you see, invite, sit together, eat meal together. So Indian sort of community, I think, should be active to know, to make known more their friends. So every Indian community, wherever you live, I think you also have the responsibility to promote these 1,000-year-old India's tradition, which is relevant to today's world. So then sometimes I sort of jokingly telling them, wherever Chinese community, they eventually create Chinatown. So now Indian also should create India town. So sometimes I sort of half joke, half truth. The Chinese, say, 1,000 years cultural people, hardworking. Indian cultural people, but a little bit lazy. So now Indian also should be more hardworking. So Indian community, wherever you live, should be active to make known 1,000-year-old Indian tradition. Religious harmony is possible. India, over a billion populated nation. Generally, one way India, very, very ancient old nation, one way young nation. So there are a lot of trouble. So in spite of that, you keep religious harmony. So you must show other people religious harmony is very possible. In complicated India, 1,000 years we practiced that, we kept that. So Indian community, wherever you live, should make clear religious harmony is very possible. That's your sort of responsibility. So that's my talk. Then some questions and some argument also. I love argument because I'm a student of logic. So therefore, we love argument. So any argument, most welcome.
Before I request Shyam Parandeji to give his vote of thanks, we have a very quick two presentations which will finish, I promise you, within 1 minute. We have Shri Koteshwar Sharma ji, who is Joint General Secretary of Vishwa Hindu Parishad, who has come to honor His Holiness. And we have Dr. Shashi Bala, who is a great scholar and a member of ARSP, who will present her books to His Holiness. Dr. Shashi Bala, please.
I think I want to share, since you see these talks now must start in this country. So now time come, you see, serious discussion how to introduce in Indian sort of education field these ancient Indian knowledge, how to introduce. Now, I do not know. So I'm thinking seriously. Now, more meeting with Indian educationists, some scholars. Then, now time come, make some proposal, or practical sort of, what's the practical sort of, there's a document like that. So that's now, I feel, many years I talk these things and nothing concrete. So this is not, now my age 82, so next I think 10 years my life may be active. Then after that, too old. So not much time as far as my own sort of case. So now time come, think seriously and use our sort of intelligence on practical level, and then how to introduce the in existing education system in this country, including 1,000-year-old your sort of knowledge, how to bring inner peace, how to tackle our emotion. So for that, you need fuller knowledge to educate about emotion. Whole, I usually call map of emotion. That's important. So now time come, we should serious think how to introduce. So you see people here, you see, think more seriously. But then, then you see, organize from time to time. You see, how to introduce, how to implement. Now that's important. You see, just one occasion I come and show my face, that's not enough. Now must start implementation, these things. How to implement. That's up to you. I don't know.
Thank you. So, Shri Koteshwar Sharma ji.
Okay. Now another one. Okay.
Shri Koteshwar Sharma ji is Joint General Secretary of Vishwa Hindu Parishad. And now we have Dr. Shashi Bala, a very senior and active member of ARSP and one of the best known scholars in India. Thank you. So may I request now Shyam Parandeji to kindly come and deliver a vote of thanks. Shri Shyam Parandeji.
Thank you. Yes. Start.
Thank you, His Holiness. This was a wonderful morning, and we thank you heartily for your blessings and the guidance. We really feel
that in the midst of the stormy modernization and the winds of globalization, culture and tradition is being the casualty. And your guidance for us this morning will go a long way, because this will create the harmony between the time-tested culture and tradition and the modernization that you talked about, guided us. And thank you for the same. I'm aware that Sunday morning for all of us, the Dilliwalas, is a bit challenge, and you made us here. And I thank everybody present here for being here with us, and surely enjoyed the guidance and the enlightenment that His Holiness delivered to us. I, on behalf of Antar-Rashtriya Sahayog Parishad and Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, thank everybody for being with us this morning. Thank you very much. And join us for the lunch out there, and enjoy while you eat and talk. Thank you very much. Namaste.